My name is Billy, and by the nature of my work, I often have to go on business trips and sometimes stay there for days or even weeks at a time. On one of these long business trips, this story happened. I am from Toronto, 27 years old, a handsome young man, high athletic build, and quite interesting in communication. In general, for a word in my pocket will not fly. A few years ago, in late fall, sent me on another business trip. I realized that I would have to stay here for at least a month. I began to think about finding a good hotel or apartment. Hotels in this city were unsatisfactory, and I started looking for an apartment. To my surprise, I quickly found a one-room apartment with excellent renovation and a huge bathroom. The apartment was rented by a family, husband and wife. They both came to the meeting, and by their appearance it was clear who was in charge in the family, or at least who was interested in the task of this apartment. The husband was probably under the influence of something, and the wife, on the contrary, was quite active and interested in closing the deal as soon as possible. So we agreed on everything and signed the contract. I made a prepayment, quietly began to live and work. Almost all the time I disappeared at work. I appeared in the apartment in the evening, took a shower and fell asleep, as I had no strength for anything else. So lived almost a month, and, accordingly, the closeness of me all this time was not. One weekday, I got a call from my landlady, Susan, asking me, "Billy, hi, how are you? What are your plans for tonight? I wanted to make a request of you. We haven't had hot water for a few days now, and frankly, I'm tired of getting out of it. I'd like to take a proper shower. Is it possible to do that in your apartment? I won't disturb you." "Okay, I'll be there after 8. You can drive up at that time. Deal," replied Billy. Around 8, I was already climbing the stairs to the apartment. Half an hour later, the intercom buzzed. Susan arrived. She was about 35 or 37, medium height, not beautiful, but quite pretty. Her hair was down to her shoulders, but her figure was special. Brown eyes, thin lips. We chatted for a while, moved to the kitchen, and she offered to make coffee. We talked for about an hour. We chatted about various trifles, sometimes touched on the joint life with her husband. Somehow they joined the coffee with cognac, and it worked quite quickly for some reason, although they drank only a little. After 10 minutes, she went to the bathroom, taking with her coffee and cognac, and I stayed in the room and looked for something on the internet for work. After almost an hour, she came out in a bathrobe, a towel over her head. "Do you mind if I dry my hair some more and take up your time?" Susan asked, sipping her coffee. "No, of course not. I've already lost you," I replied. And already it was obvious that the brandy was making us both smile. We chatted for another hour in the kitchen over coffee, where we found out that she and her husband have been living like brother and sister for a long time. They are divorcing because he won't give her a divorce. She's supporting him as best she can. He used to earn quite well, and then the crisis, and he started drinking, so he cannot stop. Accordingly, and in bed and everything is not so good, but rather just terrible. And Susan told it all quite emotionally, in detail, sometimes even gesturing with her hands. Sometimes so much so that her robe would open a little. She didn't hesitate to adjust it. I'm a human being too. I'm already in front of my husband and so, and all to no avail, bored with everything. If you saw in what form I go home, then I would be in his place long ago, probably already started to pester. All the more reason for me to brag. "And what kind of look is that?" I say, but pretty much like this. Susan lifts her robe slightly, just above the knee, and bends over as she does so, the scent on the robe spreading out a little, exposing her breasts a bit. Still unclear, I say, and smile with her, as the brandy is in full effect, both of us laughing.